Alright, welcome everyone. In this video I want to talk about rendering angles, I guess you could say, or thinking about where your lights are, where your light sources are. There are other videos that cover this better than I probably could. There's something that it's something that I see all the time. I see it in a lot of pages that get sent to me for critique and that sort of thing. And so I want to do a quick video just to sort of discuss it. So what I'm talking about is, and I'll do an example on this circle here on the left. Now let me get a brush you can see. All right. So if your light source, let's say, is coming from the right side, that doesn't mean that you're going to render just on this edge, okay? If it's coming directly from the right on the same plane, it's not going to just get the edge of the item, whatever you're rendering. Now, if your light source is coming from behind it, say at an angle, how do I do this? Say like an angle like this, where the arrow is, pointing toward the camera, then yeah, you might just get a bit of a rim light there, okay? But you have to take into consideration the angle the light is coming at this sphere here. So, and what I mean here, let me get rid of all of this. All right, so let me just get a soft brush, lighter color, lighter version of this. So if the light is coming directly from the side, it's actually going to be, at a 90-degree angle to the reader, just one side of it's going to be, covered in light. Now, if it's coming at it behind it, it would be kind of what you call a rim light, so you would get kind of an edge here. But what if the light is like on the same side as the reader, looking toward the sphere? Then it might be something like this, and then it just depends on, how shiny that object is as far as how you render that. So, but what I see all the time is things are just rendered in the middle kind of vaguely. Yeah, do like that. Well, that's great if your light's actually coming from that angle. But it's not always going to be that way. You've got to consider the shape of your objects. And I'm going to give you guys an example of this in just a second. Another example. Same thing on surfaces like a flat box here I did really quickly. I'm not just going to render in the middle kind of vaguely and hope that makes sense. You really have to think, where is my light source? And I'll give you guys a quick example. And I used this example in a previous critique video, and it helps to sort of break these things down into their kind of component parts, I guess you could say. So, for example, her torso here, and we'll just say it's roughly a box, right? So it's going to look something like this. All right, if we just break it down into its most simplest form here, it's basically just a rectangle. My rectangle is ugly here. Hold on. Let's fix this. Get a little bit narrower. There we go. So let's say it's a box. It looks something like this. That's a beautiful box. Because the light's coming from the monitor, it doesn't mean that I'm just going to render along this edge here, right? Like I'm actually going to cover the entire, front here is going to be covered by the light, if I'm just thinking about it in terms of those shapes. And, that's not the only thing that would apply to. It would apply to any sort of shape that is, and even arms and hands and fists and all these things can be, and heads, they can really be broken down into those same components. So an arm, that's really a cylinder, and you've got another cylinder here. My cylinders are ugly, but you kind of get the point. So if I'm going to render these things, I'm not just going to go along the edge that's facing the light, but I'm going to think about, is my light's hitting that whole that whole side of those cylinders. Okay, and like I said, it even applies things like faces and the planes on the face. That's really that's a video in and of itself. But you can still think about it in its most basic terms. A face is sort of you got this kind of surface here, and then the head goes kind of down like this. Think about those edges, about where the light's going to come from. And like in this example, like if I was rendering this, I would probably, do something like this along the side of the face, and then maybe along the nose there a little bit. Let me get a color, you guys, that might make more sense. There we go. So I'm going to get some bright edge there, and then maybe along the nose, or where these arms are. I'm going to get, most of that, because that entire front of that arm is, is facing that monitor there. So, and again, the same thing on the front. Think about the angles that things are facing here. Okay. And I'll get one more quick example here. So this is another image I uploaded pretty recently. And I've got this light source kind of coming down from the top right, but again, it's kind of facing away from the viewer here a little bit. So it's kind of coming in at an angle, kind of like this. So I didn't just render along the edge, all of this entire front plane here on her face. That's all going to be lit here. Now again, I'm breaking this down very, very simply, but even things like torsos, this is really a cylinder. It's kind of deformed a little bit, but this is a cylinder. It's kind of, I don't know what the term for that is. It's sort of warped. So my light, it's starting here, and then it kind of fades all around the edge. I'm not just going along that edge there. And again, same thing on all the other components. You've really got cylinders here to think about. Warped cylinders, but still cylinders. All right, so anyway, keep that in mind when you're rendering your images. Don't just get those edges unless you're doing a rim light on purpose. A rim light would be, let's say she's got a yellow light coming behind her, then yeah, I might have just a light here just along the edge. You see this in a lot of illustration, concept art and things. It looks really dramatic. You might just get some rim lights for things that are coming from that angle. But that only works when the light source is facing you as the reader. You don't want to do that if your light source is, say, it's coming from the right, but it's coming from the reader. In that case, it would be, it would be more along these edges. You get her hair here, and you get this whole, part here and all of that, kind of like I did with her hand in this image. I didn't just line purple lines here along this side here, because it wouldn't have made sense given her hand placement. So, and if you want a much more in-depth description of some of these concepts I'm talking about, be sure and check out Sycra. It's Sycra. Check his channel on YouTube. It's absolutely killer. I've recommended this plenty of times. It's Foundations of Light and Shadow playlist. He's got a ton of videos on there, but this one especially, it covers a lot of the things we talked about in much, much greater detail. He's a much better teacher than I am, so be sure to watch that if there's still concepts here that you might be a little bit hazy on. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, subscribe to the channel. Make sure you check the link to my coloring course. There's a coupon code in there for everyone coming over from YouTube. So you guys take care, and I'll see you in the next video.